Shalom, shalom. Giving honor to the creator of heaven and earth. Want to go over this, not going to be long. Want to go over verb and noun. Let us look at this, brothers and sisters. We have the word here, hora or hore. Now, in this particular case, we're dealing with it as a verb. All right? Hore, in this case, in the Hefeld stem, which in root means to teach. Okay. All right. So, then we have this word here, more. The word more means teacher. So what do we see so far? The verb and then the noun with the prefix of it with the mem there. This is a male teacher. Then we have this word here, and we can say it also as hore. Now, in this case, we're not dealing with it as a verb, but as a noun, and this means parent, a male parent. Now, we have this word here, okay, and we have it as mora. The word mora, meaning teacher, a female teacher. All right. Then we have here the word hora. Okay. Hora, meaning female parent. So what do we see so far? Hore in root, meaning to teach, the verb. More, a teacher, a male one that is. Hore, in this case treated as a noun, the male parent. Then we have mora, meaning female teacher or a teacher that's a female. Then we have hora, a parent that's a female. And we have here the word Torah, generally said as law, but the word Torah really means teaching or instruction. For instance, when you read in the book of Proverbs, and it says, forsake not the teaching of thy mother, all right? Al tishkat torat imerka. Forsake not the teaching of thy mother. So we just want to point that out. So we have a teacher, a male parent, a female teacher, a female parent. So what do we get out of this? The teachers are parents, and most definitely the parents are teachers. And what are they supposed to teach? The instructions. So just want to show how the Hebrew works in this particular case. All right, you can see that the O and the R sound is still there. The O and the R sound is still there. You may have a change with the mem or the tau or in root with the hey, but the general premise of the sound is still there. Unlike English, when teaching and instruction, those words do not sound alike. Whereas teacher and parent in English does not sound alike in root, all right, linguistically. So just want to point that out. Hebrew is easy. Get the book on Amazon. Shalom.
Shalom, family. Shalom, shalom, family. How's everybody doing? We hope, we pray that everybody is well and will be better. This is your brother and friend, Yeshaya Israel. Shalom, my brother. Older brother in spirit is so good. We want to, brothers and sisters, get into this particular topic, if we will. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, please, I ask you to press the number 4. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, we ask you to press the number 4. Thank you for that, family, in that particular case. What we are going to, brothers and sisters, get into the matter. We are on the platforms More Yeshaya Torah Lessons and More Yeshaya Old Testament. Now, it is not very common, brothers and sisters, on Danitepublications, though it is not a secret to many, to get into the matter of why we are what you will call Old Testament based. Anytime a book begins with a subject in main and theme, you see that in the first several sentences of said book. For instance, in the book of Genesis, in the beginning of the Torah, we read, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We know from that about the theme of the book is about God and the creation that the Most High has made. Now, when you get into the beginning of the New Testament, we read, this is the generation of Jesus Christ. So for those of us into the Bible, those of us into the scriptures, we begin to see that the Old Testament theme starts with God and his creation. And the New Testament theme starts with Jesus Christ, who happens to have been a human. Now, brothers and sisters, in many cases, it has been asked of us as Old Testament-based Israelites, as we are called, as non-messianic, as we are called, to sit there and in so many words prove scripturally why we say what we say. Which is why, brothers and sisters, a brother took out the time and given honor to the Most High to address those things. The book is called, if we can pull it up, brothers and sisters, all right? If we were to go to that particular matter, if we will, right? Old Testament Israelites respond to Messianic Israelites. And so, if I can, brothers and sisters, if we were to do, say, a screen share, right, in that particular matter, we will be able to show what we're talking about for reference purposes. All right? And let us pull it up in that particular matter. Thank you for that, family. Thank you. We have, if it can be seen, yeah. Here is the book there itself. I'm seeing it upon said screen and that. And also, brothers and sisters, it is shown inside of the Kindle format as well for those who do care for such in that particular manner. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, what we are intending on getting into in this particular matter is not so much a matter of going back and forth within the book that is written. But I would like to say this, if I may. I remember when people began to try to use videos or have videos used or whatever in regards with trying to debate Old Testament Israelites severely, watching Old Testament based elders or so videos and making videos based upon it and so forth and so on. In one video, the gentleman was saying toward the end of it, who do we as Old Testament Israelites look forward to as a level of salvation? And we were kind of like, what? The Most High is our salvation. And the gentleman mentioned names such as Hezekiah, Josiah, and other men of the scriptures who is listed in Matthew 10, believe it or not, as part of the ancestry of Jesus, in saying that we can't look to those elders who are now deceased in the scriptures, so we essentially have to look to Jesus. But we don't need to look to any man. We as men need to look to the Most High. That is where it boils down to when you get right down into it. You understand? So what we care to do, brothers and sisters, is something that is coming from the book of Daniel, if we will. All right. We're going to be reading in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and some of the verses in it and going over it. And we'll be using the standard like King James Version, because that, not for nothing, is the standard version that many people do use. All right. So without any further ado, we will, family, do the stop screen, then do the share screen. And like with the matter done with the Amazon thing, we're going to do it as so in this particular case. All right. Hoping and praying that everybody is well and will be better. In Daniel chapter 7, let us look and read certain verses and then go over certain verses that we read. And it reads as follows. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, let me pull it up this way. If it can be seen in a manner there, no. But we're going to be reading certain verses out of this anyway. Oh, it can be seen this way. I'm sorry about that, family. So now we're going to go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. And here's what we read. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Let's go down to verse 18. It says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Verse 22, it goes to say this. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Let's go down to verse 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his kingdom to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and the greatness of the kingdoms, verse 27, and the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. Brothers and sisters, when we deal, brothers and sisters, shalom, my brother Berg in Paris, when we deal with these verses, Daniel 7, verse 9, Daniel 7, verse 10, Daniel 7, verse 13, Daniel 7, verse 14, Daniel 7, verse 18, Daniel 7, verse 22, Daniel 7, verse 26, and Daniel 7, verse 27 is what we care to go over, brothers and sisters, in this particular matter, if we will. Let us, brothers and sisters, expound upon this. Some may agree, some may disagree, but we present this in love and respect. Let us get into the matter. Let's read verse 9 again. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. What can we gather about the thrones being cast down? The thrones being cast down were the kingdoms that the book of Daniel chapter 7 already talked about. The throne of the kingdom of Babylon, the throne of the kings of Media and Persia, the throne of the Greek Empire, the throne of the Roman Empire. Now, in Danitepublications, brothers and sisters, whether many may agree or not, what we teach is that the little horn that made war with the saints of the Most High and subdued the saints of the Most High is America. And we, the children of Israel, are the subdued ones by that horn. That is something that we teach on this publication. So now when we read what it says here in Daniel 7, verse 9, it says, I beheld till thrones were cast down, that the kingdoms fell. And the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. This right here, we teach, is an anthropomorphic matter of the Most High. That is to say, when we as humans give our human attributes to our maker and creator, his hair, his eyes, his hand, and so forth. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels like, as it says, burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. So what judgment was set, brothers and sisters? What books were opened? If we remember in the book of Daniel chapter 12, it says, seal the book even until the time of the end. So now we see a prophecy even mentioned before that, that is to occur after that, that is saying, brothers and sisters, about the matter of opening the books, if we will, right? Sorry about that, brothers and sisters. Alrighty, scroll. I wanted to change the band on that. Sorry about that, family, that you see scrolling on the bottom. But let's continue, brothers and sisters. In verse 13, we now read this. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Now, are we to ask, are people saying that the Ancient of Days is Jesus? And are we to ask that one like unto the Son of Man brought to the Ancient of Days is Jesus? See, the reason why we as Old Testament Tanakh-based Israelites are asking that question is because everything that seems, not trying to be funny in wording, deep or anything of that kind of sort, is Jesus. The angel in the book of Exodus is Jesus. The angel in the book of Judges is Jesus. In many cases, Jesus is the answer for what people care not to explain in, say, the Old Testament. But brothers and sisters, what we care to sit there and expound upon from letting the book speak for itself is when it is speaking of the Most High, when the Most High is speaking, whom is being spoken to, and is there a time frame that we can relate with what we're speaking of? So let's look at this, brothers and sisters. It says this. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days. Now, the Ancient of Days that we just read of in verse 9, it says that he was there after the thrones were cast down. The thrones that were cast down in verse 9 were the kingdoms that we were already talking about in Daniel chapter 7, be it Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome, and then the little horn that came out of the Roman Empire, which we teach is America. America still standing as a / kingdom empire goes to show us that all these prophecies that we see in the book of Daniel have not happened yet, which gets to, not trying to be funny and wording, the crunch line and what this presentation is about. If the prophecies in Daniel chapter 7 are still occurring in this day and time, if all of them are not completed, like we would teach, brothers and sisters, that the prophecies in Isaiah 7 about the young woman having a baby and naming him Emmanuel, that prophecy has already passed. That time has already passed. We would teach with the same matter that all the prophecies we see in Daniel chapter 7 have not come to pass yet. So now, for anybody who already can know and acknowledge that, and we see that Daniel chapter 7 verse 13 says that one was seen in the night visions. Pardon me, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days. So this one that was like a Son of Man came to the Ancient of Days, brothers and sisters. So the Ancient of Days and one like the Son of Man brought to the Ancient of Days could not be perhaps then the same thing. So Jesus could not be the Ancient of Days in verse 9. And at the same token, if he was, which he wasn't, could not then also be the Son of Man brought to the Ancient of Days in verse 13. But let's read verse 14 again. It says, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, and that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So let's ask this question here. If Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 and 14 is speaking, say, about the matter of whom is referred to by many as Jesus, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Yahoshua, and so forth, that is to say, the star of the New Testament, regardless of whether you use the Greek transliteration, a Hebrew understanding, or an English understanding of such, we know who is being spoken of in, say, the New Testament. In many cases, no disrespect intended, it seems as us as said Old Testament-based Israelites, it is told to, oh, don't say JC, don't say Jesus is truly such. Stop making him a God. How about that? Because there's many times J has been used with Joseph, Japhet, Judah, Jehoshaphat. But once it comes down to saying, quote, Jesus, then many times brothers and sisters who are messianic will go very vehemently hard by saying there's no J in Hebrew and there's been no J in the past 500-600 years. But every other time, regarding, say, his father Joseph, regarding, say, his tribe Judah, nobody goes as hard regarding J in that manner. Stop making Mary's son a God, O house of Israel. This is something else we care to talk about. See, what happens, and I say this and not to be harsh, when you make a man a God, you begin to see that man more than what that man is or was. And that's what happened with this. Because if the coming of Jesus already came in the New Testament in the timing of Augustus and then later on Tiberius, and being crucified before the timing of Caligula, many times people are forced to say that the prophecies that we see in the book of Daniel regarding they want to say is Jesus means in his second coming. But nothing in here says, and he shall die and come back in Daniel chapter 7. So because the prophecies that they want to attribute to Jesus in the said Old Testament have not come to pass during the time of Jesus on earth, they say that it has to happen when he comes back to earth. But none of these prophecies that they say that's attributed, as they say, to Jesus says when he comes back after the other prophecies were not fulfilled in the first coming. That is what happens when you make a man a God. You're going to stay gun-ho on that without realizing and reading what it says verbatim. So was a matter in Daniel chapter 7, verse 10. Let's read. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. Were the books opened in the time of Jesus? Was the judgment set? See, if you're going to say that a prophecy in the said Old Testament is to be aligned with what happened with Jesus, then you would have to sit there and show it to be aligned in what happened with Jesus. Not that the little horn that came up later, brothers and sisters, that made war with the saints of the Most High and defeated the saints of the Most High. We have to now wait for the prophesied Son of Man to come, who, while during his time, the Israelites was oppressed during the timing of the Roman Empire. And now the later part of the Roman Empire with this little horn, which we teach here is America, we're still being oppressed in this captivity / this kingdom / this empire. So we're waiting for the same Savior, as he is referred to as, who did not do the saving in the first time of his coming, while citing prophecies like this that doesn't give who is to come to help the people a second time to come. There's nothing in here that alludes to saying one second coming in these kind of prophecies, namely that we see here in the book of Daniel chapter 7. So these are things that we care to bring out, if we will, for reference purposes. It goes on to say in verse 18, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Verse 21, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. So now when we go, brothers and sisters, and see that this little horn, which we teach on this platform, is America, making war with the saints of the Most High, when you go in your own time in the book of Psalms 148, read the whole chapter, you will find out that the saints of the Most High are the children of Israel. So now when we go, that again is in the book of Psalms 148, where it says the saints of the Most High, even the children of Israel. Shalom, my brother Bergen Paris. Shalom, my older brother and spirited to a good. Shalom, my brother Tishama. If we're reading here in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 21, and it says, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints. Now, we already spoke upon the saints of the Most High, the Hasidim, being brothers and sisters, the children of Israel, when we go to Psalms 148. Read the whole chapter. In verse 22, line upon line, precept upon precept, we see this. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. So the saints of the Most High in verse 22 are the same saints of the Most High in verse 18. The Ancient of Days coming in verse 22 is the same Ancient of Days that we see in verse 9. The Ancient of Days did not change. The matter of who are the saints of the Most High did not change. So let's read verse 9 and then verse 22 again. Thank you for the time, family. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. Remember, the thrones being cast down were those kingdoms. That is the kingdom of Babylon, falling to the Medes and the Persians. in the 6th century BCE, the thrones of the Medes and the Persians falling down to that of the Greeks in the 4th century BCE, the throne of the Greeks falling to the Romans in the 2nd century BCE, and then eventually with Roman Empire, which we teach here is still in existence under the American way, is this. In 285 AD or 285 CE, Diocletian and Maximilian separated, brothers and sisters. So you had the Eastern Roman Empire and the Roman Western Empire to the west, the Byzantine Empire that fell in 1453. Now, in the book of Daniel, it says concerning the beast that their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So with their lives being prolonged for a season and a time, and with the saints of the Most High, this day has not received the kingdom. And the little horn, which we teach is this society, oppressing the saints of the Most High. How then do we sit there and perhaps think that either one, the Ancient of Days is Jesus, or the Son of Man in verse 13 is Jesus? How does he fit either or when the other prophecies that we see have not come to pass yet in the same chapter? Example how, not to be disrespectful, making a man a god. When you make a man a god, as is done with who is referred to as Jesus, you would need to go into a book that you call old and say this is where he is. With the same energy, it is not taken into Matthew to Revelation about saying, and this is where thus saith the Lord is at. And God spoke unto this man. We do not read from Matthew 1 to Revelation 22 the phrase, thus saith the Lord. We do not read the phrase, and God said. Outside of the portion in the book of Acts. And in that portion in the book of Acts, they are citing the Old Testament prophet Joel. So if I were to say, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, my firstborn, I'm citing what was said to the prophet Moses. That doesn't make me a prophet. So we wanted to ask this of our beloved family who are into the said New Testament and so forth and so on. And Old Testament brothers and sisters who are said to be Tanakh based, come off or portray as Tanakh or Old Testament only base, if you will, but may or may not be in reality. That's your conscience and your matter of how you deal with things. But brothers and sisters, when we go and we read this here, we know good and well, in closing this out, you cannot say that the Ancient of Days is Jesus, one like unto the Son of Man is Jesus, and then, well, all this stuff has to happen when he comes back. See, the beginning of the book of Daniel, chapter 7, essentially talks about the matter of the kingdoms that came up. And it starts when the kingdom that Daniel himself happens to be in, Babylon. And then Daniel lived into the fall of Babylon and the rise of the Median Persian Empire. He passed away before the Greek Empire came into existence. So now even brothers or sisters who say that Daniel 7 in the beast is Babylon first, Persia second, Media third, and Greece fourth, that still leads to more questions. Because after the end of the fourth kingdom, which body is to be consumed with fire, the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom. So when Greece fell, brothers and sisters, in the battles with the Romans, fighting among the Medes, fighting among the Ptolemies and the Seleucids themselves, and then eventually having problems with the Roman Empire in 146 BCE, when Greece essentially fell to Rome as an empire. The saints of the Most High at that time did not receive the kingdom. So Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, about the fourth beast could not be the Greek Empire, nor could it be anyone from the matter of, say, the New Testament, in saying that, oh, he is the one to come, but also saying at times that he's the Ancient of Days. Stop. No. Daniel 7, verse 7, to lay it down plainly, is not talking about Greece. The fourth kingdom that is mentioned is talking about the Romans. And then out of that beast came 10 horns. And out of those 10 horns, one of them came up and put down 3. We teach here that little horn that put down 3 horns is America getting rid of the other European powers that they had to contend with, England, France, and Spain, in order to become an empire themselves. And this same little horn that put down 3 of the original 10 horns made war with the saints of the Most High. And in citing Psalms 148, read the whole chapter, we see that the saints of the Most High are the children of Israel. And that the children of Israel is who is being spoken of in verse 13 and 14 about being given a kingdom. But because it says, I saw one like the Son of Man, we have to understand and letting the book speak for itself. Let's go to Psalms or chapter 40, not Psalms in this case, Isaiah. Let's go to Psalms chapter 48, brothers and sisters. And let's see what it says in this particular matter. We are in Isaiah chapter 48, verse 20. Go ye forth of Babylon, flee from the Chaldeans, with the voice of singing declare ye. Tell this, utter it even to the end of the earth. Say ye, Yah, the Most High, have redeemed his servant Jacob. So Jacob is Israel. He hath redeemed his servant Jacob. But it says singular servant, not servants. But we know Jacob, Israel, is more than just one person. So because we see a singularity in that particular case, does not mean that is not speaking of the nation of Israel. So now, in how we understand, and with scriptural citation, the book of Daniel chapter 7, we've already gone over what those kingdoms are and are not. Now, when we go, brothers and sisters, in verse 14, and it was given him dominion and glory in a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. There is no talk of a second coming. In this portion, once you get this kingdom, after the oppression, there is no, say, second coming because you're being oppressed again. No. Which shall not pass away. In his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. Let's go in the book speak. Thank you for putting that in, Brother Paris. In Isaiah chapter 60, verse 9. If we will. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 9. And it reads this. Surely the owl shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God,
and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. That's in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 9. So now, if it says that Israel was glorified in the Most High, let us go and read verse 14 again. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom. So who gave the glory to who? The Most High gave the glory to Israel. So the same word glory we see in verse 14, we see glory in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 60, verse 9. It goes on to say, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I have smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and the kingdom that shall not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. That is in Isaiah chapter 60 from verse 9 to verse 12. So the kingdoms, the nations that are not serving Israel in the future shall be destroyed. So now when we go back to verse 14 in Daniel chapter 7, we read, and there was given him dominion and glory. So if it says in Isaiah 60, they shall bring their kings, that's talking about bringing their dominion, which you're dominating, which you rule over, and a kingdom, and all that all peoples, nations, and languages to serve him. That's why I went on to read in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 12, when it says the nation and the kingdom that will not serve thee. So who are going to be the masters of the nations on a human level is the children of Israel. Let's read. You're supposed to be in Deuteronomy 28, the head and not the tail. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Verse 17, Daniel chapter 7, verse 17. These great beasts which are four kings that shall arise out the earth. So now these kings that are four that shall arise out the earth, we've been teaching is Babylon, Media, Persia, because they formed an alliance between themselves before they came in contact with the children of Israel in 550 BCE. And then they fell in 331, essentially, to the matter of Alexander when he defeated Darius III. But the saints of the Most High, and we've already cited Psalms 148, read the whole chapter to know who the saints are. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. Kingdom we already read in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 12. Verse 12, sorry. And possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. I beheld, excuse me. Sorry about that, family. I had to drink something real quick. All right. Thank you for that. If I can be heard well, please press the number 4 if you're in good spirits. Now, back in Daniel chapter 7, verse 21, you know, when you talk a lot, you do get thirsty. And so it says, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So this horn that we spoke upon, according to the way we teach on this platform, is America. America is still up and existing. We're still being oppressed. We don't know whether we should go for reparations or exodus, generally speaking, as a people. We don't know as a people if we should allow our suffering to be equated to that of a person who chooses to be a homosexual. We are part of those people that it says gross darkness shall cover the peoples. Some of us are under that, sadly, as well. So now let's look at this again, family. It says in verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. Verse 10 says, the judgment was set and the books were opened. So if the judgment was set in verse 10, and we see in verse 22 that judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Verse 26, but the judgment shall sit. We see judgment in verse 26. We see judgment in verse 22. We see judgment in verse 10. It's the same judgment that's being spoken upon in regard for the saints of the Most High. The saints of the Most High that was oppressed by the little horn that broke down 3 of the 10 horns that was on the 4th beast, being the Roman Empire. Goes to say this here. And it shall take his dominion and consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. What it means about dominions, the kingdoms, the governments of the nations, shall serve and obey him, meaning shall serve and obey Israel. But see, what happens is this, in closing out, is there is a thing they refer to as replacement theology. And in that, coming into the house of Israel, the son is Jesus. So Exodus 4:22 saying Israel is my son. No, Jesus is. Israel is to be the priest to the nations. When you go in Exodus chapter 19, when Israel's living right, no, there's a new priesthood that is of Jesus. The servant of the Most High, we read in the book of Isaiah 48, is the nation of Israel. No, the servant, the suffering servant or otherwise, is Jesus. So Jesus took the place of Israel. In other words, the matter of Israel being replaced by the church, it is referred to in concepts of religion called replacement theology. So instead of, quote, the nation, it becomes, quote, about, say, the man. And Israelites believing themselves as such, saying themselves as such, have a difficult time, perhaps, in dealing with the matter of asserting, for the lack of a better term, our position before our God. There are some Israelites who are into the New Testament and thus believing in Jesus. And on this platform, we don't, and I say this in no disrespect, do the game thing by saying it's Yeshua, it's Yahweh. We know. If I can say Joseph, I can say Jesus. If I could say the tribe of Judah with a J and not go all over linguistics and everything like that, then it is what it is. But see, you know there's something wrong with that J being less than 1,000 years. But you know that Judah and Joseph are not the Most High. But you believe that the glory and the position of the Most High, who said, Hu El Quana, he is a jealous God who does not give his glory to another. In other words, the position of being the Most High, nor his praise to graven images. See, the glory given to Israel in Daniel chapter 7 is, as it says in there, under the whole heaven. The Most High fills heaven and earth. So Israel knows their place before the Most High. But Israelites into Jesus don't know the position of Jesus in the Most High. And that, in part, is part of the issue and problem. And I don't mean to be no person who's trying to be disrespectful or insulting. So, brothers and sisters, in dealing with this sensitive matter, in dealing with this kind of topic, what I've noticed is when Genesis 1:26 is asked about and then addressed, and then Isaiah 7 is asked about and then addressed, and then Isaiah 9 is asked about and then addressed, and then Isaiah 11 is asked about and then addressed, and then Daniel 7 is asked about and then addressed, and then Isaiah 53 is asked about and then addressed, and then we have, brothers and sisters, Daniel 9 is asked about and then addressed, and Micah chapter 5 is asked about and then addressed. What happens is, well, maybe you just don't understand. No, maybe they're trying to fit Jesus in a book that they disrespectfully call old. Maybe they're taking and deifying a man. You see, earlier when we read about when it says the Ancient of Days came and his hair was like pure wool, and I had to explain that is a human concept given the anthropomorphic matter from a human mind to the Most High. We do it all the time. The hand of God, the feet of God, the finger of God. That is us giving human attributes to our Creator. Anthropomorphism is what that is called. But what Jesus being equated to God, not us as mere humans, having hands and fingers and toes and feet, saying God's feet, God's finger, and God's hand, what they've done with Jesus is he being a man made him a God. See, that's where the distinction come into play at. And knowing that is blasphemous in their soul and in their heart, it then becomes a matter of having to say, well, you just don't understand that. No, what is not understood in relation to what this portion and presentation about is this. The Ancient of Days, anthropomorphism of us as humans, speaking of our Maker. The right hand of Yah doth valiantly. That is in Exodus, for instance. What's done with Jesus is he fed people without even saying, unless I stand to be corrected, Father, help me. See, every miracle that you see, like the water from the rock, you see the Most High in the interaction, in the wording. When Jesus does something, is God in the interaction. It's his Father, as he's referred to as, in the interaction. Because what we know, and none of us are on the level of Moses, it says, Ki lo kodashtani batok b'nei Yisrael, because you did not sanctify me in the midst of the children of Israel. You shall not enter the land that I have sworn unto them. The Most High, who Elquana, a jealous God. So as we pointed out the other time, when they gave us back our book with a new God with it, it's similar when the Philistines gave back the Ark of the Covenant in the book of Samuel with their gods on it. In 70 AD, we were not as a people going over the position of who they say as Jesus Christ. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to bring out. This is not to be disrespectful. This is not to be insulting or anything of that sort. But now when we get into who receives the kingdom in verse 14, the saints of the Most High, we see in verse 18. and the horn that made war with the saints of the Most High. And the time came, and the saints possessed the kingdom. People into deifying Jesus have to then be forced to say it's when he comes back again. And nowhere in Daniel 7 did it say these prophecies shall come to pass when anyone comes back the second time. It was outlined, and we wanted to emphasize the part that says, and the time came. And so, brothers and sisters, the deification of Jesus, and you see these churches that don't pay taxes, and you know yourself as an Israelite, then you must know perhaps then that in the time of Augustus and Tiberius matter, if you will, no, certainly Augustus, when the people were being taught about the Roman gods, they didn't pay taxes. As not being funny, as greedy as the American government is said and understood and are, they don't tax the churches like that. So what are they gaining if not the economic way in regards with people dedicating and clapping to and worshiping hours on said Sundays? Their gods are being worshiped, brothers and sisters. That is their spiritual matter. They take the taxes from us with jobs. And for those of us who go into their institutions, not to be disrespectful, I have family who does that, unbeknownst to them what is going on perhaps. When giving your spirit into that mind, as they said, Christian, bowing down to that white Jesus, being in the house of Israel, the same storyline. Everything's the same except the color. The Most High, brother, made us with our color. We're not to worship our color. The Most High made us powerful with our melanin skin and how it connects to getting the nutrients that he made in the sun and so forth and so on. That's his form of operations. We praise our God for doing that. We don't praise ourselves with the sun. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to sit there and bring out for reference purposes. If the judgment was set, and we're reading that the judgment in these days and times have not been set, and there's nothing in Daniel 7 about saying a second coming, that is a forced in ideology in that particular case, which does not coincide with what the words itself says. So with that, family, sorry about having to reread something if I misread it. And to all the brothers and sisters who are in here now or will be later, thank you for joining on. We ask you to subscribe to the channel. I can be reached. My number is 908-587-4841. And we're going to close out now, family. Having been on going into an hour, and we hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. Thank you for that.